Welcome. My name is Linda Tierney, and today I have with me Andreas Moritz. Andreas is the author of 4 books: The Amazing Liver Cleanse, It's Time to Wake Up, Freedom from Judgment, and The Key to Health and Rejuvenation. Andreas, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. And today we're going to be focusing on mostly the book, The Amazing Liver Cleanse.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about your background?
I was born in Germany in 1954, and my life was very bumpy to begin with because I suffered major illnesses such as juvenile rheumatoid arthritis, and I fainted every couple of weeks, in the middle of places like church or post offices, and I had chronic headaches, chronic constipation, severe gastrointestinal problems, and arrhythmia as a child. So I was suffering so much that I had to look for problems to these solutions to these problems quite from an early childhood stage onward.
So your interest in health was based
Yes.
upon a need, an own personal need.
Yes. Doctors couldn't help me, so traditional doctors failed to do anything about it. It never disappeared. In fact, it got worse. So gradually I had to dig up old books which I found in my mother's library, and she was always very interested in that.
At what age did you start your own search?
I started to look at these things from age 12.
Wow.
I studied the digestive system at age 12, and I was fascinated by that because it gave me so many clues about my problems. And once I started changing my diet, and some of the things I was doing to cause all those problems, they disappeared, and I gradually discovered ways to health which would be applicable to a lot of people as well.
Great. And now, could you tell us about the liver, the function of the liver, and the importance of cleansing the liver?
Yes, the liver is, of course, one of the major organs in the body, and it's the factory, the most important factory, which is not just producing enzymes for the digestive system, cleansing the blood, but it regulates basically the entire metabolism, distribution of energy throughout the body. If there's anything wrong in the body, you can always relate it back to the liver. And that's what I've found in my research. I've been working in this field for 32 years, and I have not found a single terminal illness where people didn't have congestion, severe congestion in the liver bile ducts.
That's what amazed me when I read the book, is that so many diseases were related to the liver.
Yes.
I had no idea.
Yes. And that's something, of course, that I've learned over the course of many years, where people have been cleansing their livers, their bile ducts in particular. They found that these problems disappeared as they were continuing to cleanse their liver. And of course I emphasize other things as well, not just cleansing the liver, because if you eat foods which have a very congesting effect, then that can cause more congestion again in the liver, and of course in the other organs of elimination, such as the kidneys and the colon, foremost of all.
Mm-hmm. And you suggest colonics before and after the liver cleanse is very important.
Absolutely, because when you clean the liver, and I will show a couple of pictures later on if that's okay, there are so many stones coming out, and they pass, of course, through the gastrointestinal system. So they come out through the large intestine. And people who have unclean colons, they will, harbor some of these stones that come out, and they are held back. And that, of course, causes, some infection in some cases, or it can just make you feel unwell because these toxins, these bacteria are going around the system over and over, and that can cause some side effects.
And these stones that come out of the liver are very toxic, so when they get stuck in the colon, that's bad news.
Yes, you can tell that from smelling stones when they come out. Most of these stones, they float in the toilet. You can look at them, you can take them out if you like. the color is like this here is the green leaves, bright green color, and some of them are very, very dark. They can be black, they can have some are whitish beige, but whatever they are quite toxic, because when the liver is blocked, when these bile ducts are congested, then the liver is unable to remove its toxins properly, and the liver is the foremost detoxifying organ, and it filters the blood at constantly. So every time you have some toxins retained in the liver, they attach themselves to the bile stones, to these bile clots or gallstones, and that of course is a great disadvantage, because the liver has to stop doing that work, and some of these toxins keep circulating throughout the body, and they get deposited in other areas, such as connective tissues, which the tissue making up every soft organs, even the harder tissues like bone tissue. So you can have joint problems, you can have severe lymphatic congestion after that, and then you have water retention, and you put on weight. So most of the people who have excessive weight in the body, they have toxins deposited in various areas of the body, which means that in order to keep them neutral, at least for the time being, the body has to hold on to water. Water is a neutralizing agent, and so they hold on to a lot of extra weight, and I think it's fat, but it's only very little fat. Most of it is water or lymph congestion, lymph fluids.
So a person then, by cleansing their liver, could lose a lot of water weight then?
Absolutely, absolutely. When the liver is clean, it is very difficult to be overweight.
Oh,
it's
great.
very, very difficult, because metabolism is at its normal range. The digestive ability, which is controlled by the liver, is increasing. So the same food which might have caused you to gain weight before, after your liver is clean, will mean that you can actually get energy from that food rather than convert it into fat or waste products. And so your body is getting cleaner and cleaner, and it loses that waste and that water which is keeping these toxins neutral.
Great news for a lot of people.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's not just about losing weight, because many people say, I just want to lose weight so I look better. But having extra weight means the digestive system is not functioning properly, and that's the harbinger of major illnesses in the future. Most cancers, which I have studied and researched, they are related to problems in the digestive system. And I could go a little bit into that, into details of that, because it's such a common illness today. Cancer and heart disease, all those diseases which we commonly refer to, they are basically diseases of congestion, and liver plays the foremost role in that. Once the liver is congested, and all the other organs can start to get blocked up as well.
So it sounds like anyone with a disease could really benefit, or if they're overweight, they could really benefit from a liver cleanse. How about your person who's feeling very healthy? Could they also benefit from cleansing the liver?
Absolutely. There's always a need for more energy, better sleep, just feeling better about oneself, about one's emotional health. Because what I found over the years, those who have cleansed their liver and they don't have any gallstones left in the bile ducts of their liver, they also don't get angry anymore. And that's a great, wonderful characteristic to have, to always be at peace with oneself and one's surroundings and other people. Because gallstones, they block the bile flow, and it is known in traditional medicine, even people saying you have a bileless nature. You're angry, the bile is overflowing, it can't actually leave the liver, it's trapped. And once something is trapped in the body, you feel trapped, and that's frustration. And the frustration builds up and it turns into anger. So there's a lot of emotional benefit from cleansing the liver.
Yes, and I have gone on 3 liver cleanses since I talked to you in January, and It is amazing. I also, being a colon hydrotherapist, I see a lot of people coming in getting colonics who have gone on this liver cleanse also, and a lot of us, well, myself and others, do experience some anger feelings. Yes. Right directly after the liver cleanse, and I just find that fascinating. In fact, one woman reported crying all afternoon, you know, and it just seems to be very related to the emotions.
Yes, yes, emotions are not really stuck in the body as such. They are stuck in the blockages, like the gallstones in the liver, or kidney stones in the kidneys cause a lot of fear. So once you put people on kidney cleanses, which is another important thing to do in life, as you eat certain foods and you live in a polluted environment and you get stressed over things, after a while you start collecting these items in the body, and they are not really useful items. They don't belong in the body, and because they don't belong in the body, they're foreign, and the body gets afraid if you have blockages. The body is a circulatory mechanism, basically. It's a process. The body is not a fixed frozen sculpture where you can take things out and put new things in without feeling the emotional drainage from that. So if people have fear in their lives, you can bet that their kidneys are not functioning that well. And when they clean them out, then fear can be released as well. And maybe they are releasing, being even afraid after a cleanse like that. But that doesn't happen too often.
And it's very short.
Yes,
it was just like a day of noticing some angry feelings coming up that were very unusual. It's like, I know this has got to be related.
And afterwards you feel so much better.
Yes, yes. Now in this book, The Amazing Liver Cleanse, you also have a recipe for kidney bladder cleanse.
There's a kidney bladder cleanse in there. That releases actually, or not, it doesn't release the stones as such, it dissolves the stones, and that's very important for the kidneys because you don't want to flush them out like in the through the gallbladder or the liver, because that is fairly painless if it happens in the liver, but you don't want to flush out stones because they can get stuck in these tiny ureter ducts, and that can cause lower back pain, which incidentally is mostly related to crystals breaking free from the kidneys and getting stuck in the ureter walls and causing rupturing in that area, and that is very painful. So there are so many millions of people in this country who have low back pain, and low back pain is such a easy thing to clear if you know where it comes from, but many people have to, they have operations for these kind of things, and there's no relief for that.
Or they just suffer with lower back pain for years and years and years.
Like I did. I had chronic low back pain. Until I really cleared out my system, I had all those pains everywhere. I had 40 gallbladder attacks before I managed to find ways to clear these gallstones painlessly, effortlessly, basically, from the liver and gallbladder. And I passed 3,500 stones, and as a little boy I know I had gallstones from age 6. My uncle, who was a leading iridologist, iridology is the science of eye interpretation. You look a person into the eyes, and you can see in the structure of the iris changes that occur in a person's organ systems, or in the circulation or wherever in the body, and they show up in the eyes, and you can see discoloration or structural changes. And so he saw straight away, and he said, you have stones in the liver. And at that time, of course, medicine had no clue that there could be stones in the liver. Today they are called intrahepatic stones, but they're rarely recognized, so doctors don't look for them.
They're rarely recognized and extremely common, as I understand it.
Extremely common. It's one of the most common things, and as I've seen thousands and thousands of people with all kinds of illnesses, from very simple things, pain in the knee. People never associate with the liver, but it's very closely related to the liver. So when the stones are cleared and the liver, the pain in the knee disappears, it's a wonderful thing for the person who suffers from these kinds of problems, because he can't walk properly, and obviously it's just a knee, it's out there, but it has nothing to do with what's happening in here, but it has. And that's something that only comes with experience, seeing people, taking them on these cleanses, changing their diet, so it's really supporting their psychophysiological body type, their particular needs. The ability to digest depends on the liver function, of course, and that's hardly ever been discussed in a doctor's office, unfortunately.
Well, cleansing the liver is so inexpensive and really very easy.
Yes.
Could you talk they need liver cleanses? It's not just a one-time thing. Could you go into that?
Yes. Of course, you have. Maybe I can even show a picture, of stones that are, so it makes it more practical. This is the liver, and if you can focus on that, there are tiny, tiny bile ducts, which are in the liver cells, or they're surrounding the liver cells. So the liver cells produce bile, which is an alkaline substance. It's green, and it contains it's basically made of cholesterol, 95%, and there's some bile salts and bile pigment, bilirubin. There's some other substances as well, and water, of course, and other salts. And these cells, they produce the bile and pass it into larger bile ducts until the bile is coming out of the liver and is moving into the gallbladder. And from there, once food has moved into the stomach and it's ready to pass into the first section of the small intestine, the gallbladder is squeezing the bile into the small intestine. And that's where the main digestion takes place. That's where when the food is coming through into the small intestine, you need the bile in order to raise the pH value from acidic food content to a more alkaline food content. And then the pancreas here can release pancreatic enzymes, which are needed to break down the food into the smaller possible components like fructose, glucose, vitamins, hormones, basic trace minerals. So basically all this process can only take place when your bile flow is appropriate. If you don't make enough bile, which most people nowadays don't, instead of making a quart and a half of bile a day, most people make just a cupful.
And why? What makes it so they're not making enough bile?
Because of the blockage of the bile ducts.
Okay.
These bile clots or gallstones, they block the bile flow, so there's not enough bile coming out. And of course, sometimes you have also gallstones in the gallbladder that doesn't give the gallbladder enough space to accommodate the bile coming in from the liver, and that would mean that when the food comes through, you don't have enough bile. And bile is so essential for what came out of you and how much you could harbor in this organ, which is on the right side of your body. It's a very large organ, and in fact, most people think, well, it's just a little organ, but it's huge.
About how much does it weigh?
A couple of pounds and 2.5 pounds. So it's very large, and it can weigh a lot more if you have a lot of stones sitting there. So
you want it to weigh about 2 pounds. It
spans the entire width of the higher abdomen. So it's very, very large, and this is a very good picture to show, basically the proportions. And if the liver is blocked, often it expands, it becomes large, and it affects the breathing, so that it presses on the diaphragm, and then the diaphragm doesn't have the opportunity to go lower, and so you don't get enough breath. And so a lot of breathing difficulties come from congestion in the liver. There are many other problems, like in your case, when you clean out people's colons. If the liver is blocked, you don't digest food properly. Your digestive ability is so little that you start clogging up your lower intestines, and that's where colon problems come from. So colon problems are directly related to impaired liver function. And then these kind of deposits of waste matter, they sit there in the colon walls, they get attached to the colon walls, and that can cause obstruction in the colon, sometimes even spastic colon, which is a contraction of the colon. And when that happens, everything that is moving downward, the food moving downward, and some waste products which are generated from parts of the foods which couldn't be digested, they get stuck here. In some cases this is called constipation, but many people, they have regular bowel movements and they still have a waste retention. And it's like a dam that is created there. And there's a backing up of a lot of waste, which then actually moves up through the small intestine, and it can move up into the stomach. It can come up through into your throat area. And I have had, honestly, I've seen people who brought up fecal matter from the mouth.
Wow.
And usually that's associated with very bad breath. A lot of people have bad breath, and it's something that is not very nice.
Well, by that time, they are very sick
very
anyway.
blocked,
Very sick,
blocked,
yeah.
yes. And that can be released quickly, like with the colonic, and of course through the liver cleanses and cleaning out the body like that. And then taking care of some very easy dietary measures, because a lot of people, they eat foods which they're so intolerant to that the body is just fighting it and is losing its strength and its power, and it gets even more and more blocked, because what happens if you don't digest food properly, your entire lymph system gets blocked up. And that's another subject which we could go into a little bit,
Right.
Because it's fascinating. It relates to so many health problems.
The lymph system is also very key to
Yes.
good health.
It is, and the lymph system is again related to liver function. If the liver doesn't work properly, and if you don't have enough bile flow, you get lymph congestion. And the lymph congestion is taking place mostly here in the central part of the small intestine. That's where you have, I have got a diagram actually of the lymphatic system. I've got a couple of pictures also of gallstones to look at in a minute.
Okay.
If you can focus on that for a moment, we have tiny lymph ducts in the body, everywhere, like in the hands, in this case here, or in the feet. And these lymph ducts, they are parallel to the blood vessels. And these lymph ducts, they drain the connective tissue, that tissue which surrounds the cells, from metabolic waste. Every single cell in the body receives nutrients and has to release metabolic waste. At the same time, you have 60 to 100 trillion cells in the body. And every day you turn over about 30 billion cells. That means you have to create 30 billion new cells, and you have to destroy 30 billion old cells. And when you destroy 30 billion old cells, you have to remove them. And if you don't remove them properly, and the lymph system is in charge of that, then you have localized congestion. And if that is building up, then you develop diseases, what we call disease. But it's basically just a blockage. And the lymph system is such a powerful system. It's working all over the body, and every part of the body is connected with every other part in the body through the lymphatic system. So it's a huge network which, for example, drains the fingers. So all the waste, the metabolic waste, and the dead cells, cellular debris, damaged cells are removed through that, and they're passed on into lymph nodes, and these lymph nodes detoxify this lymph fluid with all that debris and those toxins. And as they are reaching this area here in the central part of the body, and that's basically where all that goes, and it ends up in these sacs, and they're called cisterna chili. So these lymph sacs, or cisterna chili, they are making sure that every toxin is being cleared. There's a lot of immune activity there, so there are lots of immune cells, and they're destroying any harmful substances there. And then afterwards, this lymph fluid is moving up in this duct, in this green duct. Most of it is moving up in this green duct, and it moves right up to your throat, and it moves into the left side of the heart, into the blood circulation again. So once, if you have a blockage here, in this cisterna chili, and remember, this is exactly where your digestive system is located. So if you don't digest food properly, then these lymph sacs, they get overtaxed. They start filling up with a lot of toxins from the undigested foods, particularly proteins. Undigested proteins are called degenerate proteins. They're damaged. They are not useful for the body. But they thicken the lymph fluid. They make it very thick, like gel-like. And then it congests the lymph flow. And that's where the major problems occur. So then there is a blockage occurring all the way up in the thoracic duct. And that means the side ducts, which try to empty their waste from different parts of the body, they can't do that anymore. Then you have localized disturbances. For example, breast cancer is related to lymph congestion in the lymph nodes of the breast glands. Okay, that's basically what is responsible for the breast cancer.
Wow, and that's very common.
Yes,
nowadays.
very common. And when I trace it back, when someone comes to me and has breast cancer, and I can trace it back exactly to congestion in the abdomen, in the where the belly button is, and basically there's a swelling there. That means it's swollen up to a point like a balloon shape, and it's causing so much congestion here that there is no flow. There's no flow of lymph in the thoracic duct. That means you have localized congestion here. So what happens is that the cells in the breasts, for example, they can't release their metabolic wastes because there is no more drainage. So they have to hold on to the metabolic waste, and as they do that, they surround themselves with these toxic substances. After a while, there's no more oxygen coming in there, and when the oxygen can't come in there, then the cells have to mutate. That means they turn cancerous.
Right.
And if you gave them oxygen, they would either die, or they would again turn into friendly cells.
Wow.
And so the lymph system is responsible for keeping that nourishment steady and fluent. So that makes sure that you always have enough oxygen coming in there. But if the lymph system is blocked right down here, then you will eventually have a blockage up here.
Great, and I do want to, I think...
for me it has been a great experience seeing people with every kind of... And so what I found more and more, that there are no illnesses as such. Disease is, in my point of view and from my experience, a survival mechanism that the body is creating in order to prevent something worse from happening than already has happened. So when I look at cancer, I don't look at it as a vicious disease. I look at it as a very powerful last-minute survival mechanism. And what it does actually, the cancer prevents these toxins which are trapped in the tissues. It starts to dissolve some of them. It starts to neutralize them. And it's like you know that cancer cells, they live off lactic acid, for example, which is produced, it's a byproduct of metabolism. It's a waste product which can be extremely harmful if it keeps staying in healthy tissue. And so the cancer cells, they devour it, they live off it, they make energy from it. And so they take it out of that surrounding, and there are some other extremely poisonous substances which cancer cells neutralize. So the cancer is actually preventing these toxins from going into the bloodstream, which could cause septic poisoning and kill the person in 3 days' time. Whereas the cancer allows you to live sometimes for years.
Yeah.
Of course, you have the opportunity then during that time to clear out your liver, make sure that it's completely clean. That improves your digestion. Your lymph flow is guaranteed, that you have proper lymph drainage from every part of the body, and the swelling, wherever it is in lymph nodes, will start to go down, and that helps to remove the metabolic waste again from the cells, from the cellular areas, and free the cells. In the cells can again breathe oxygen rather than other waste products.
So the problem with a clogged lymph starts with the liver being blocked.
Yes, and you see most people when they talk about weight gain, they get, where does it start? It starts right here, under the belly button.
Yeah.
So that's where you complain and say, oh, I'm putting on a tummy here. And
red alert,
yes,
actually. It should be a red alert for
and
someone.
that should be the first sign. That should be the first sign of malfunctioning digestive system and liver function. And if that is noted by a person, then he would look for ways to clear that. And it's so easy to do. And I would be so happy if this technique and the liver cleanse would go into the hospitals, where people could recover so much more quickly from all sorts of illnesses. And I've seen it. I'm receiving on a daily basis hundreds of messages from all over the world, and people who are claiming it saved their lives. They don't have the cancer anymore. They have recovered from heart disease. Their heart actually, after having had a heart attack, completely recovered, and there's no sign of damage after they have cleansed their liver.
Wow.
And this is remarkable. So there are millions of people dying from heart disease, and it's totally unnecessary, needlessly.
Yes. Now tell us, how many different liver cleanses would a person need to go on? How would they know when they're done, when their liver's cleansed?
Well, obviously, the liver is only clean when there are no more stones coming out. So I would go that far. There are people who have done 6 cleanses and their liver was clean. Then there were other people, like myself, I had to do 12, but I had so many stones. Not that that is something rare, but a lot of people have that kind of number of stones. But then someone just, my partner passed very large gallstones during the 9th cleanse, and I have a picture here, and it's quite fascinating. Some of these stones, they look like that. If you can zoom in there, these are typical green stones that come out of the liver. Some are beige color. This is a calcified stone, which is partially calcified, that exists only in the gallbladder. So also the gallbladder stones are coming out when you do the liver cleanse. These are a mixture of different kinds of stones that came out through one elimination. And so there's some green in there's some beige in there, some reddish pink ones. And then this is a gallbladder here, which is completely packed with stones, and it had to be removed. But I had many people who had that kind of situation.
So a person could have that many gallstones in their liver, but it wouldn't have to be removed. They could go on a cleanse.
Yes.
And,
my liver was,
lose it
my
that way.
gallbladder was packed completely, and it was constantly overflowing. So I had these kinds of stones coming out involuntarily, and they got trapped in my bile duct. Whereas when you do the liver cleanse, you don't feel them coming out. They're painlessly, because there's a lot of bile coming out, and bile is very, very oily. So they come out like pulling out a ring from a finger. When you put oil on it, it just comes off very easily.
What are these stones made out of?
So this particular one is a gallstone, typically coming from the gallbladder, not from the liver. The liver ones are basically green ones, which you have just shown before. So they're dark green, or sometimes a lighter green, and sort of beige color. This one is totally calcified, and that's what my partner released at her 9th cleanse. And this was about 2.5 inches long and about 1.5 inches wide. And when that came out, it just passed out basically painlessly, but it felt like a proper bowel movement. And when I took it out and I looked at it, and I dissected it, and it was completely calcified. So I cut it into 2 pieces. And the smell that this kind of stone emanates is unbelievable. You would have never smelled something like that before. It's horrendous, actually. And the airborne bacteria that come from it are very poisonous.
Yeah, sounds
so
very toxic.
Keeping that in the gallbladder is quite a very traumatic experience for the body. So when this particular stone came out, there were a lot of stones coming out afterwards, about 100 of them. They were equally calcified. So literally her entire gallbladder, which is, a gallbladder is about that size, the entire gallbladder, which had been filled with these stones, was emptied. And from that day on, she never had any pain in her body anymore. It's like within 24 hours, all the pain disappeared. And a lot of other things, of course, can happen. The whole body can rejuvenate. The aging process can be stopped or even reversed. And any of these aches and pains in the body, you don't have to bother about that. The stiffness disappears very quickly in the body, wherever. Whether it's in your feet or whether it's in your head, like all the neck pain which she had for all those years, all her life, they disappeared. And I'm a shiatsu practitioner, that's one of my other jobs I do. By touching the meridians, the energy ducts in the body, which you treat in acupuncture, they can be extremely painful, and she had a lot of pain throughout the body whenever I touched any of those areas. And now I can't find a spot which is painful, and that's quite, that really shows that so many problems are coming from there. Rheumatoid arthritis is a typical illness, and I had suffered from that I couldn't even lift a spoon to eat my food as a child. And clearing the liver is just a wonderful thing to help sufferers with all kinds of joint diseases.
Wow. Now, what are the different stones? What makes up these stones from the gallbladder?
Yes, the stones are typically made of trapped cholesterol crystals. Cholesterol comes in 2 forms. The cholesterol occurs in crystals, but it has to be dissolved or has to be made liquid, soluble. And for that, the body needs bile salts. And the bile salts come from the small intestine, they enter the liver, and the liver is then making these cholesterol crystals into this liquid form, which then becomes bile. And then the bile helps to release toxins from the liver, and also is the principal digestive aid to allow all the digestive processes to take place properly. And it does a lot of other things, like keeping the colon clean. If you don't have enough bile, the colon gets clogged up, and food is sticky and it sticks to the intestinal walls. So the bile makes sure that this doesn't happen. So it's a very good preventive aid to keep the colon clean.
And the reasons these are so toxic is because they've been in the body for so long, and
they are toxic because a lot of bacteria, the liver is trying to get rid of toxins and neutralize a lot of harmful things. There are bacteria coming into the liver, there are parasites coming into the liver, and they all try to be detoxified and be eliminated through the bile, and then excreted through the normal bowel movement. So if these stones are sitting there, they hold up the elimination of toxins and these bacteria and parasites and parasitic eggs, and so all that can get trapped in these stones. So there's a lot of poison that is generated from these bacteria, because they're trying to break down some of that mass of stone. And if they are, of course, that produces a lot of toxic smells and putrefaction, and it's a very unpleasant thing to keep in the body. And some people saying, well, it's I don't want to do this again. This was disgusting, and you know what came out there. But it's far more disgusting keeping those things in the body, trapped in the body, which is not supposed to have these stones sitting there for 20, 30, 40 years.
Exactly.
Sometimes.
Very important information for people to realize about the liver and how to
Yes.
cleanse it and what it can do for their body and their overall health and the
Yes.